In part 1, we talked about how processing calls your routine called key typed when a keyboard key is pressed, and key released when you let go. We also saw that it sets the global variable key, which is a single character, to let us know which key was pressed or released. Let's now return to our snowman game and the key-typed routine that will control it. Here's the routine where we left it at the end of part 1. Now there's a little subtlety here, which is we're not being as nice as we could be to our users. What if someone accidentally hit the caps lock key? Now when they press the A key and key typed gets called, the value of key will be the capital letter A, not the lowercase letter a. The computer actually knows the difference, and the keyboard knows the difference. The character lowercase a is not the same as the character uppercase a. So if we want to be nice to our users, and of course we want to be nice to our users, we'll test not just for lowercase a, but also for uppercase a. So in this expression, I'm saying if the key is equal to lowercase a, or the key is equal to uppercase A, we do the left action. Remember those two vertical bars in the middle that mean or are one after the other. There's no space in between them. You just type two vertical bars and that means or. Well, of course, we'll do the same thing for D, W, and S, so we'll test for the capital letter versions of those as well. Once you've done all that, it looks like this. I've also changed the comments and replace them with assignments to global variables. If we hit the A key, a boolean called move left gets set to true. If we hit the S key, crouch is true. If we hit the D key, move right is true. And if we hit the W key, jump is true. So notice what happens here. Anytime a key is pressed, its corresponding global variable is set to true. Now, right now, we don't have any way of detecting when a key is released, and we let more than one key be down. So if you hit the A key, move left becomes true. And then if later you hit the D key, move right is also true. And they're both true at the same time. And maybe that's good. Maybe you want that in your game. Maybe now your character is kind of jittery and just sort of standing there in the middle and vibrating. But maybe that's not what you want. Let's go back to our game and see how well this control structure works, and if this isn't what we want, how we might want to change it. Here we are back in the desert. We're going to start the level, so we drop in our snowman, and remember our goal is to get him to the right-hand side of the screen past the rock. So we press the D key to move him to the right. He moves to the right, but we still have the D key down, and he tries to move to the right, and he can't because the rock is in the way. He falls down, and after a little while, he melts. And that's the end of the level. Well, that's not good. We failed. Let's try again. So we start over, we go back to the desert, we bring in our snowman, and we press the D key. He moves to the right for a little while, and then we also press the W key, meaning go up. So now he moves to the right and up, and this is great. He's jumping over the rock. But we don't have any way of letting go of the keys. And so he just keeps going up and to the right and up and to the right. And again, we've lost the level. We want him to be on the ground. So let's try again. We start over the level. We bring in our snowman and we want to get him to the right. We press the D key. Off he goes. When he reaches the rock, we press the W key as well. He moves up and to the right. And now we let go of the W key. And if we're able to catch that, then gravity will cut back in. He'll come back down to the ground. The D key is still down. He moves to the right. Success. We've won the level. And of course, we give the snowman a prize for finishing the level. We give him what every snowman craves the most: a companion frog. So now the snowman has a frog and he's able to go on and conquer new levels. The trick to making all of this work was we were able to tell when the W key came up. So let's put that into our code. Here's the key typed routine from before. We test for each key and we set the global variable corresponding to it to be true. To catch when a key comes up, we provide processing with a version of key released. Again, it's of type void. It takes no arguments. In fact, the declaration looks just like key typed. Instead, it's called key released. And just like key typed, the global variable key contains the name of the key that we just let go of. So let's test for the four keys we care about. First, we'll see if the key was the lowercase a or the uppercase a. If it was one of those, then we set move left to be false. The A key is up. We are no longer moving left. Well, we'll do this for each of the 4 keys. We'll test to see if the S key came up. If so, crouch is false. And we'll do the same thing for D and W. When we're all done, it looks like this. Now, this is absolutely great code. It's totally perfect. If you type this in just this way, it will run and it will do everything we want it to do. But there's a whole lot of code on the screen here, and if you look at it, you'll notice something interesting. These 2 routines are almost identical. Line for line, character for character, they're almost the same. In fact, the only difference is in key typed, we set the global variables to be true. In key released, we set them to be false. This is a great time to create a new function. What we can do is create a single function. The function takes in 2 arguments, the key that was either pressed or released, and the value, either true or false, that we want to set the Boolean to. We can then write new versions of key typed and key released that call this function. They hand it the key and the Boolean value, true or false, and the function tests the key it received as an argument and assigns the value it was given. How do we write that function? A very common way of doing it is to cannibalize one of the existing routines. So let's cannibalize key released. What I'm going to do is to take the current version of key released and I'm going to monkey with it. I'm going to generalize this. Instead of using the global variable key, I'm going to use a value we pass in. And instead of setting the globals to false, I'll set them to a value that we pass in. Once we have this new routine written, I'll write new versions of key typed and key released to call it. So let's go ahead and do that. What are we going to call our new routine? Let's say set key value. And it takes 2 arguments, a character, which I'm going to call this key, and a Boolean, which is either true or false, and I'm naming it key value. And that's the value we're going to set the Booleans to. So we're going to cannibalize this current version of key released. Let's get rid of key released, and now this is the name of the function. Now we just need to change the lines a little bit to use the new values that are being passed in as parameters. Let's take a look at the first instance of key. When this was key released, that referred to the global variable that was just released. But as far as our new routine, set key value, is concerned, it's not testing against the global, it's testing against the character that we passed in as an argument. So I'm going to replace that version of key with this key. And in fact, I'm going to do that everywhere. Now I could use search and replace, but let's do it by hand. Let's look for the next instance of key. There it is. And I want this to be instead the version that's being passed in as an argument. So we open it up, we make it this key. Reading on, then the next line, we see that we're setting move left to be false. Well, we don't want it to be false. We want it to be whatever value is coming in as an argument, which we've named key value. So we change false to be key value, and we do this for all the rest of the lines. All the instances of key, instead we want to be references to this key. So we'll just change them all. And you can use the search and replace if you like, or you can do it by hand. Then we look at all the remaining assignments of a Boolean value to the globals. Right now they're all false. We want them to be key value, so we make those changes too. So great, now we have our new function written. How do we use it? Well, let's implement key typed. What does key typed need to do? All it needs to do is to call this function with the global variable key and the Boolean true. The function will take key, this character, the current character that was just pressed down. It will go through all the if statements, and when it finds the key that was just pressed, whether it's an A, an S, a D, or a W, it will set the corresponding global variable to true, because that key just went down. How about key released? Well, it does the very same thing. It calls set key value with the global variable key, but the Boolean is now set to false. So when set key value looks through all the different things that this key could be, and it finds the one that matches the key we just passed in, it sets the corresponding global to false. This is a much better little bit of code than what we saw a moment ago, where key typed and key released did all that testing. And that's because everything is contained in one place. If we want to make changes, we only have to change them in one place. And to understand the code, we only need to read this one chunk. Once we understand what set key value does, well, key typed and key released are just one-liners. So this is one way of handling what's happening with the keyboard if you want to remember which keys are down and which keys are up. Of course, if you come up with a different way of using the keyboard with a different control scheme, this approach might not work for you at all, and you'll write different versions of key typed and key released. So let's summarize what we've seen. To talk to the keyboard, processing gives us two procedures and a variable. The procedures key typed and key released are called anytime a key is pressed down or the key comes back up. The global variable key is a character that holds the key that was just pressed or released. Although there are a few little subtleties that are covered in supplementary videos, this is 99% of what you'll ever need to know to use the keyboard. You're now ready to start using the keyboard in your own interactive projects and your own games. Now that you know how to respond when a key goes down or is released on the keyboard, you're ready to include the keyboard in all of your projects, giving them a whole new level of interactivity and responsiveness.